When you hear the word crisis in investing, it's a scary word, right? It conjures up these images of markets just plummeting and people losing everything. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if these crises aren't just random threats, but a predictable, even manageable part of the whole investing journey? All right, let's get into it. The philosopher George Santayana really hit the nail on the head here. To even have a chance at understanding our financial future, we've got to look back. Because history doesn't just show us the scary parts, the crashes. It shows us this incredibly powerful recurring pattern that comes right after every single one of them. And this, right here, this really gets to the heart of it. The boom and the bust, the crash and the recovery, they're not separate things. They are two sides of the exact same coin. You can't have one without the other. Every storm eventually is followed by sunshine. Okay, so let's just get this out of the way first. Market crises are terrifying. They feel like a hurricane hitting without any warning. But here's the thing. They are an absolutely inevitable part of being an investor. That's really the crucial point. They are part of the game. And yeah, they seem to show up at the worst possible time, but history has a perfect track record here. Every single crisis, with zero exceptions, has been followed by a recovery. It might take a while, sure, but that comeback always happens. So to really get this, let's do a little time traveling. Let's look at some of the biggest financial storms in modern history. I think we need to feel what it was like to be right in the middle of them to truly appreciate what happened next. We have to start with the big one, right? The one that defined a generation and, honestly, still kind of haunts the markets today, the Great Depression. Just let that number sink in for a second. 86%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost almost 9/10 of its value. It was just gone. A near total wipeout, all because of a massive speculative bubble that was fueled by way too much easy credit. And the recovery from that one? It was painfully slow. We're talking about 25 years just to get back to where things were before the crash. So the lesson? Well, it showed us that total, unchecked speculation can be catastrophic. But on the bright side, it led to the modern regulations that give us a lot more protection today, even if you can never fully regulate human panic. All right, now let's jump to a totally different kind of beast. This one wasn't a slow burn. Nope, this was a flash fire that just shocked the entire world with its unbelievable speed. On October 19th, 1987, the Dow dropped almost 23%. Not in a month, not in a week, in a single day. It was the most violent one-day collapse in modern history, and it was kicked off by these newfangled automated computer trading programs that just created the snowball of global panic. But here's the crazy part. What happened next? The recovery was shockingly fast. It only took about 2 years for the market to get right back on its feet. The lesson here is so important. A sudden, horrifying drop doesn't mean it's the end of the world. In fact, the investors who were brave enough to buy when everyone else was panicking were rewarded fast. Okay, let's jump forward again, this time to a crisis a lot of us probably remember. Maybe you even lived through this one. The bursting of the internet bubble. This was a classic story of incredible excitement that morphed into widespread pain, all focused on one sector. So the broad market, the S&P 500, it fell by almost half. But if you were in tech stocks, oh, it was way worse. The tech-heavy NASDAQ index lost over 75% of its value, as all these companies with crazy valuations but zero profits just vanished. And yeah, the recovery took a minute, about 7 years for the S&P, but a long 15 years for the NASDAQ to climb back. The lesson was crystal clear. Just because something is innovative and exciting doesn't mean it's profitable. And maybe most importantly, it hammers home why diversification is your absolute best friend when one part of the market goes crazy. And that, of course, brings us to the big one, the global financial crisis. This was more than just a market crash. For a minute there, it felt like the entire financial system, the whole thing, was about to collapse. The fear was on another level. The S&P 500 was cut by more than half, down 57%. And this all started in the U.S. housing market, but it spread like a virus across the globe, taking down massive institutions. Remember Lehman Brothers? But, and this is a huge but, out of that absolute chaos, an incredible lesson emerged. It took about 5 years for the market to claw its way back. But get this, investors who had cash on the sidelines and the guts to deploy it when things looked their absolute worst, They could have doubled their money in those 5 years. It just proves that the greatest opportunities are truly born in the absolute worst moments. And look, after hearing all that, it's totally normal to feel a knot in your stomach. To think to yourself, wow, am I ready to watch my own portfolio drop by 30, 40, maybe even 50% or more? That's a serious question, and it's one every single one of us has to honestly ask ourselves. Okay, but now that we have stared right into the abyss, let's talk about the other side of the story, the much more hopeful side. Let's look at the undeniable pattern that follows every single one of these storms. This right here, this is probably the single most important sentence in this entire explainer, so just let it sink in. Every crisis we have ever seen in modern market history has been followed by a full recovery and then a push to brand new all-time highs. There are no exceptions. None. I mean, just look at the data right here. The drops are brutal, no doubt about it. 22%, 86%. And yeah, the recovery times are all over the place, from a few months to a couple of decades. But that last column, that's the one that's undefeated. Recovery, it always comes. I mean, look at the COVID crash in 2020. A gut-wrenching 34% drop, and the market was back to new highs in less than 6 months. Incredible. So this is the whole point. Knowing that recovery is basically inevitable, that changes everything. It lets us completely reframe our thinking. It allows us to turn what feels like a moment of pure, blinding panic into a moment of incredible opportunity. So let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. Number 1, recoveries always follow crises. It's the law of the market jungle. Number 2, you have to be mentally prepared for markets to get crushed sometimes. 50% or more is not out of the question. Number 3, the people who win in the long run are the ones who either just hold on through the storm or, even better, buy more when everything's on sale. And remember, feeling fear is normal, you're human, but you cannot let it be your financial advisor. And finally, having a plan before the crisis hits is the secret sauce that transforms that terror into a generational opportunity. Because make no mistake about it, another storm is coming. History absolutely guarantees it. So the only question that matters isn't if it will happen, but when. And now that you know the pattern, will you be ready? Will you be prepared to see the opportunity that's hiding inside all that panic?